I want you to picture something with me right off the bat. It's really quiet.
Right.
And it is incredibly vast. Like, I need you to completely let go of the present moment for a second.
Okay, I'm with you.
I want you to imagine a time roughly, well, a billion years from now. The sun, as we know it, has just swollen up.
A red giant, yeah.
Exactly. Its core dynamics have shifted, expanding its outer layers until it just fills the sky as this blinding, angry, red giant.
It's a terrifying thought, honestly.
It really is. And the Earth, I mean, whatever ultimately became of its atmosphere or the oceans or, us, it's just utterly unrecognizable.
Or maybe swallowed entirely by the expanding solar envelope.
Right. Every monument we ever carved into granite, every digital server, farm housing, all our collective knowledge, every cathedral.
Every word anyone ever wrote down.
Every single word. It's all been pulverized into cosmic dust. A billion years of geological and stellar violence just erases almost everything.
Almost everything.
Yeah, almost. Because out there, in the cold, completely silent vacuum of interstellar space, far beyond the gravitational grip of that dying sun, something is still moving.
A tiny little craft.
Yeah, this small craft, it's completely dead, it's dark, and its internal power sources have been exhausted for literal eons.
Right.
But bolted firmly to the side of this frozen silent machine is a perfect, gleaming, golden phonograph record.
Wow.
And it remains entirely untouched by the empty vacuum it's been crossing for a billion years.
It forces complete recalibration of how we assign value to human achievement.
How so?
Well, you're looking at a machine designed strictly to measure magnetic fields in planetary atmospheres, right?
Yeah, the bleeding edge of 1970s aerospace engineering.
Exactly. And it's acting as the delivery mechanism for the most irrational, vulnerable, and deeply emotional expression of our entire species.
It's great.
It's this collision of hard astrophysics and desperate poetic longing.
That is the perfect way to put it. So, welcome to today's deep dive into the archival records, mission debriefs, and, well, all these historical memos, including the definitive accounts from the book Murmurs of Earth.
It's a fantastic source.
It really is. The mission today is to explore this exact object we're talking about, the 1977 Voyager Golden Record.
Right.
This is the story of a profoundly intense, 6-week period when a small group of human beings was asked to compress the entirety of our biological, cultural, and emotional identity into a single physical object.
And then hurl it into eternity.
Literally, hurl it into the void.
To even begin grasping the magnitude of that assignment, we really have to look at the undeniable physical reality of the Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 trajectories.
Right, the Grand Tour.
Exactly. The primary directive for these probes was the Grand Tour. They were built to exploit this incredibly rare planetary alignment.
Something that only happens, once every 175 years?
Yeah, roughly 175 years. And it allowed them to use the gravity of Jupiter to slingshot to Saturn, and then from Saturn to Uranus and Neptune.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that gravitational slingshot maneuver is actually the catalyst for the entire Golden Record project.
It's the whole reason it exists, really.
Right. By using the massive gravity wells of the gas giants to gain velocity, the probes were accelerated to speeds that actually exceeded the escape velocity of the solar system itself.
Meaning they weren't going into orbit around the sun like a normal planet or asteroid.
Exactly. Once they finished taking photographs of planetary rings and atmospheric storms, they were never, ever coming back.
Just a one-way trip.
A one-way ballistic trajectory straight out of the heliosphere and into the infinite dark of the Milky Way.
And because someone at NASA actually ran the math on this, they realized these physical objects were going to outlast the Earth itself.
Which is just mind-blowing.
So the mission abruptly pivoted from data collection to monument building. They realized, hey, these probes are going to be out there forever. They need to carry a message.
And transforming a planetary probe into an interstellar time capsule is, it's an organizational nightmare.
Oh, absolutely.
The task fell to a committee chaired by astronomer Carl Sagan. And the archival notes show a team consisting of radio astronomer Frank Drake, creative director Ann Druyan, science writer Timothy Ferris, artist John Lomberg, and Linda Saltzman-Sagan.
Right, a really heavy-hitting team.
Yeah, and they were tasked with designing this message. But the sheer logistical terror of their situation is often completely overlooked.
The ticking clock.
The ticking clock, exactly.
The intensive phase of this project, the window where they had to decide how to represent the sum total of human existence.
No pressure.
Right, no pressure at all. And they had to secure the rights to the material, figure out the engineering of the actual medium, and physically manufacture the object before the launch window closed.
And that phase lasted barely 6 weeks.
6 weeks. It's absurd.
Yep.
And the funding allocated for this intensive conceptual phase was practically non-existent.
It's almost funny when you read the mission memos.
Yeah, they frequently cite a budget of around $1,500.
$1,500 to pack for a billion-year trip. It's the ultimate constraint. Like, think about the last time you, the listener, had to pack a suitcase for just a 2-week vacation.
Right, you agonizing over heavy jackets or which shoes to bring.
Exactly, what books to pack. Now imagine you were given 6 weeks to pack a suitcase that represents the entire human race.
It's an impossible task.
But it's not just packing. It's like trying to write a comprehensive encyclopedia of Earth using only the 26 letters of the English alphabet, but you are sending it to an audience that has never seen a letter.
They don't even know what reading is.
Exactly. They don't share a single biological trait with you. You literally have to invent the concept of communication while you are delivering the ultimate message.
And, you know, that paralyzing constraint was compounded by some pretty heavy historical baggage.
Oh, the Pioneer plaque.
Yeah, the Voyager team wasn't operating in a vacuum. We have to look at the precedent set by the Pioneer 10 and 11 probes, which launched earlier in the decade.
They carried these small gold anodized aluminum plates, right?
It's exactly. Designed by Carl Sagan, Linda Salzman-Sagan, and Frank Drake. The design included an outline of the spacecraft for scale, alongside line drawings of a nude human male and female.
Which triggered an absolute firestorm of public controversy back on Earth.
Oh, massive. The public reaction recorded in the press clippings from the early 1970s is a total case study in the unpredictability of human communication.
I mean, we're just impartially reporting what the sources say here, but there were segments of the media and the public that actually accused NASA of sending smut into space.
Right. There was genuine outrage over the fact that taxpayer dollars were funding interstellar nudity.
Which is wild to think about now, but it was a big deal.
It was a very big deal. And this historical reality placed an immense, undeniable pressure on the Voyager Committee.
Yeah. But beyond the public relations nightmare, the Pioneer plaque controversy revealed a massive flaw in their foundational theory of communication.
The subjectivity of art.
Yes. If you look at the debriefs, the committee realized that visual art is hopelessly subjective. The Pioneer plaque relied on line drawings, but a line drawing is a human cognitive invention.
Exactly. We understand that a solid line represents the boundary of a three-dimensional object.
Right. We understand occlusion. Like if an arm is drawn overlapping a torso, the arm is in front of the body.
But a civilization that evolved in a completely different optical or sensory environment might look at a line drawing and just see a chaotic tangle of two-dimensional wires.
Exactly. If human beings on Earth couldn't even agree on the cultural meaning of the Pioneer drawing, what hope did an alien mind have?
None. And this realization forced a total pivot in how they approached the exterior of the Voyager record. They had to abandon artistic interpretation entirely.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, if you want to communicate with an entity that shares absolutely none of your cultural or biological context, you cannot rely on human conventions. You have to rely on the cold, immutable logic of the universe.
Which brings us to the cosmic treasure map.
The map, yes.
When you look at the physical exterior of the Golden Record, it's protected by an aluminum jacket. But that jacket isn't just a sleeve to keep the interstellar dust off the vinyl.
It's the Rosetta Stone.
It is. It is a profoundly dense set of instructions for how to access the data inside.
What's fascinating here is how they established a mutual vocabulary.
Right, because you can't use English.
No. And you cannot use seconds or meters or kilograms because those are arbitrary human measurements based on the rotation of our specific planet and the properties of water.
So what do you use?
Well, to establish a universal measuring stick, the committee etched a diagram of a hydrogen atom onto the cover.
Because hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe.
Not just abundant, but mechanically predictable. The diagram specifically depicts the hyperfine transition of neutral hydrogen.
Okay, break that down for us.
Well, without diving too deep into quantum mechanics, hydrogen consists of a proton and an electron. Occasionally, the spin of that electron flips relative to the proton.
Yeah.
And when it flips, it emits a highly specific wavelength of electromagnetic radiation, which is roughly 21 centimeters.
Right.
And that flip takes a highly specific amount of time, roughly 0.7 nanoseconds.
Okay, so by putting that single diagram on the cover, they handed the alien finder a fundamental unit of length and a fundamental unit of time.
Exactly. They are basically saying, whatever your local measurements are, map them to the behavior of a hydrogen atom.
That is so clever, and once they gave them the ruler and the clock, they gave them the map, the pulsar map.
Right, because a standard star map is useless over deep time.
Because things move.
Yeah, if you draw the constellations as they appear from Earth today, that map will be totally unrecognizable in a million years because stars drift through the galaxy.
So you need fixed navigation beacons.
Exactly. And the committee chose to map our sun's location relative to 14 pulsars.
Pulsars being these incredibly dense, rapidly spinning neutron stars left over from supernova explosions.
Right.
They sweep beams of radiation across the galaxy like cosmic lighthouses.
And critically, as they spin, they emit pulses of radiation at incredibly precise intervals. Each pulsar has a unique spin rate, essentially giving it a distinct fingerprint.
So by drawing lines from 14 of these distinct lighthouses to a central intersection point, an alien astronomer can triangulate the exact location of our solar system within the Milky Way.
But they didn't just tell them where the probe came from.
No, they told them when it was launched.
Yes.
And the engineering behind this specific feature is just staggering. They built a billion-year timer right into the cover.
The timer is brilliant. The committee achieved this through the inclusion of an ultra-pure sample of uranium-238.
They literally glued it to the cover, right?
Basically, they physically electroplated a patch of this radioactive isotope directly onto the aluminum cover.
Wow.
Because the physics of radioactive decay provide an infallible clock. Uranium-238 decays into lead-206 at a highly predictable rate, with a half-life of roughly 4.5 billion years.
So the alien finder retrieves the probe, analyzes the isotopic composition of that patch, measures the exact ratio of uranium-238 to the resulting lead, and just works backward to calculate the exact moment the electroplating occurred.
It's genius. They wouldn't just know the spatial coordinates of Earth, they would possess the temporal coordinates of humanity.
But okay, here is my big pushback on this entire conceptual framework.
Let's hear it.
We are etching visual diagrams of hydrogen onto a cover. We are etching visual lines mapping pulsars.
Right.
The fundamental assumption is that the entity retrieving this probe interacts with the universe in a way that allows them to, quote-unquote, read a surface.
Ah, I see where you're going.
What if a million-year-old civilization has completely transcended biology? What if they exist as a decentralized digital consciousness or a swarm of microscopic sensors?
Right.
What if they don't possess physical manipulator arms to build a record player or optical sensors to see a two-dimensional engraving? Doesn't the entire physical form factor of a phonograph record become a catastrophic bottleneck?
It is a vital philosophical challenge, but it ignores the physical reality of interception.
How so?
Well, if a civilization, regardless of whether they are biological entities with eyes or a digital hive mind communicating via radio waves, if they possess the capability to intercept a physical object moving at 38,000 miles per hour through interstellar space, they must, by definition, possess the technology to manipulate physical mass.
Okay, that's fair.
They must have instruments capable of detecting magnetic fields, atomic structure, and radiation. The cover relies on those universal physical properties.
So they don't need eyes.
No, they don't need human eyes to read the cover. They only need to pass a mass spectrometer or a topographical scanner over the aluminum jacket to detect the grooves and the isotopic signature.
So the bet isn't on them having eyes. The bet is that any mind advanced enough to catch a spaceship will have already mastered the fundamental physics required to analyze its hull.
Precisely. It is the ultimate leap of faith in the universality of scientific inquiry.
Okay, let's follow the timeline of this hypothetical interception. They decode the hydrogen clock, they read the pulsar map, they date the uranium.
Right.
They reverse engineer a stylus based on the visual instructions on the cover, and they manage to spin the gold-plated copper disc at the correct speed of 16 and 23 revolutions per minute.
Which is a whole other challenge.
Yeah, but assuming they do it, what exactly happens when they drop the needle?
What greets them is a carefully curated snapshot of a blue planet. And this brings us to the internal contents of the record. The first section they encounter is actually not music. and it is not spoken language.
It's a visual gallery.
Exactly.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the Voyager Golden Record is an audio phonograph. It has grooves that vibrate a needle.
Right.
But the committee wanted to send photographs. So how do you press a photograph into a vinyl groove?
That sounds impossible.
It does. But the engineering workaround they came up with is brilliant. They encoded 115 images, or 116 if you count the initial calibration circle, into analog audio waveforms.
It operates on the same foundational principles as early analog television.
Oh, like the old cathode ray tube TVs.
Exactly. A television image is constructed by a cathode ray tube sweeping across a screen line by line, usually 512 lines per frame. The committee took their selected photographs and converted the brightness of each pixel into a sound frequency.
Right, so a bright white area of the photo was encoded as a high-pitched frequency, and a dark black area was encoded as a low pitch.
Yeah.
If you or I were to just listen to the image section of the record on a stereo, it wouldn't sound like music. It sounds like a harsh, screeching, rhythmic modem noise, like dial-up internet on steroids.
It's awful to listen to, honestly. But if an alien civilization maps those varying audio pitches back into visual brightness levels line by line,
the screeching waveform blossoms into a visual image.
Exactly. And the inclusion of that initial calibration image you mentioned, a simple, perfect circle, is a masterstroke of information theory.
How does that work?
Well, if the alien decodes the audio and the resulting image looks like an oval, they instantly know their aspect ratio is wrong.
Oh, that's smart.
They adjust their display parameters until the oval becomes a perfect circle, guaranteeing that the subsequent 115 images of Earth are viewed with the correct proportions.
And the curation of that visual gallery is incredibly moving. They had to visually explain the concept of a living biosphere.
Right.
Looking at the mission logs, they included images of a human fetus, a nursing mother, the structure of DNA, a runner in motion. There are images of a leaf, a sunset, an astronaut floating in the vacuum, and a sprawling city.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the visual gallery is humanity attempting to prove its own dimensional complexity.
Yeah, that we aren't just simple.
Exactly. It is a visual argument that we are not merely biological machines reacting to stimuli. We are creatures that study our own genetics, build complex architectural grids, explore the hostile void of space, and nurture our young.
It moves from mathematical definitions to the messy reality of biology and culture. Once the finder processes what we look like, the record transitions seamlessly into what we sound like. This brings us to the audio landscape of the Earth, the Sounds of Earth sequence, assembled by creative director Ann Druyan.
This sequence functions as a chronological audio diorama of the planet's evolution.
It's beautiful.
It begins with the elemental forces, the geological and meteorological sounds of a young Earth.
You hear the crash of surf, the rumble of wind, the crack of thunder, the bubbling of mud pots.
Yeah.
And then, slowly, life enters the audio track. You hear bird song, the hum of insects. You hear the deep, echoing, almost structural song of a whale.
Which is so haunting.
Very. And then the sounds of human industry and existence bleed in. The rhythmic chugging of a train, the sound of a tractor, the sharp crack of a blacksmith's hammer, footsteps walking away.
It creates a fully immersive environmental context. Before we speak to the cosmos, we are providing the ambient acoustic signature of our cradle.
We're giving them the background noise.
Yes, we are showing them the physical environment that forged us.
And nested within this audio landscape is a deeply specific, intimately human story that I couldn't stop thinking about while reviewing the archival notes. It's the story of the kiss.
Ah, the kiss.
Yeah. The committee recognized that affection and intimacy are fundamental to the human experience, and they wanted to include the sound of a kiss.
Sounds simple, right?
But the mechanics of capturing that sound proved to be incredibly frustrating. The notes detail how they tried over and over in the recording studio.
Yeah, they really struggled.
Because if you just kiss your own hand or kiss the empty air in front of a microphone, the acoustic result is terrible.
It really is. It sounds squishy or harsh or uncomfortably comical.
Exactly. It doesn't convey the emotional weight of affection. It just sounds like wet biology.
It lacks the authentic resonance, both acoustic and emotional, of two human beings genuinely interacting.
So the engineers are struggling, the clock is ticking on the 6-week deadline, and they need a kiss. Ultimately, the kiss that they immortalized on the master tape, the exact audio waveform that is currently sailing beyond the heliosphere, is producer Timothy Ferris leaning over in the studio and kissing creative director Ann Druyan on the cheek.
It's a brilliant distillation of the entire Voyager project.
He really is.
You have this massive, unprecedented feat of astrophysics and aerospace engineering, backed by the full might of the United States government.
All this serious science.
And yet, to accurately capture the essence of our species, they had to abandon the sterile protocols and simply rely on the spontaneous, genuine affection between two colleagues trying to solve a problem in a sound booth.
It is the perfect segue because after establishing the ambient noise of our world and the sound of our intimacy, the committee knew they had to give humanity a linguistic voice. We had to actually speak.
Right. This transition from ambient sound to spoken word marks the moment the Golden Record shifts from passive observation to active communication. The responsibility for this section was given to Linda Salzman-Sagan, who orchestrated greetings spoken in 55 different languages.
The historical and chronological sweep of these greetings is breathtaking. They managed to span the entirety of recorded human language.
It's a huge undertaking.
The tracks begin with Ancient Akkadian, a language that originated in Mesopotamia and hasn't been natively spoken on Earth for thousands of years. From the dead languages of our deep past, it rolls all the way forward through history to modern Mandarin, English, Spanish, and dozens of others.
What is particularly striking about the execution of this section is the lack of strict oversight.
Right, they weren't handed a script.
No, the speakers were not handed a rigid UN-approved script to translate verbatim. Linda Salzman-Sagan allowed the native speakers to choose their own words, to distill what they believed was the most important sentiment their culture could offer to the stars.
And the result of that freedom is this massive, chaotic contrast in tones. Some of the greetings are incredibly formal, delivered with the stiff cadence of an intergalactic diplomat.
Very serious, yeah.
But others are overwhelmingly casual and intimate. The archival records highlight a specific greeting spoken in the Amoy dialect of Chinese. The translation roughly equates to, "Friends of space, how are you all? Have you eaten yet? Come visit us if you have time."
It is a profound expression of cultural philosophy.
It's so sweet.
Confronted with the unimaginable scale of an alien intelligence, that speaker didn't boast about human technology or detail our territorial boundaries or offer scientific data.
They offered a meal.
They extended the most basic, nurturing gesture of hospitality to a stranger from the dark.
Have you eaten yet? It completely strips away the grandiosity of space exploration. It's what your grandmother says when you walk through her front door.
Exactly.
Launching that specific, comforting sentiment into the freezing void of space is an act of radical optimism. And the structure of these greetings builds to a very deliberate climax.
Yes, the sequence concludes with the English language greeting.
But they didn't use the President of the United States. They didn't use a celebrated poet or a military leader. The final linguistic voice on the Golden Record belongs to Carl Sagan's own 6-year-old son, Nick.
Yeah?
And the audio recording is entirely devoid of pretense. He simply leans into the microphone and says, "Hello from the children of planet Earth."
Placing the unpolished voice of a child at the terminus of the 55 greetings serves a critical narrative function for the alien listener.
How so?
Well, it communicates biological continuity. It tells the finder that we are a species locked in a cycle of generations, that we care for our young, and crucially, that we possess the concept of a future.
After we establish our biology, our environment, and our voice, the record shifts into what the mission debriefs describe as the most intensely debated, agonizing section of the entire project.
The playlist.
The Interstellar playlist.
They dedicated roughly 90 minutes of the record's capacity to the musical heritage of the planet.
90 minutes. That is the runtime of a standard cassette tape. If you, the listener, had to curate a 90-minute playlist to represent every culture, every historical era, and every human emotion ever expressed through music, where would you even begin?
It's a nightmare. The paralysis of choice is unimaginable.
So what did they do?
The committee naturally relied heavily on Western classical music to form the structural spine of the playlist. You have compositions from Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, and Stravinsky.
A lot of heavy hitters.
Right, and these selections were driven by the theory that an alien intelligence capable of interstellar travel would possess a high degree of mathematical sophistication.
Okay, I see.
Western classical music, particularly the fugues of Bach, exhibits immense mathematical architecture. The hope was that an alien mind could perceive the mathematical symmetry in the audio waveforms and recognize it as the product of an ordered, rational intelligence.
But they knew they couldn't just launch an orbital recital hall. They had to represent the messy, diverse reality of the globe. And that mandate led to one of the most famous cultural clashes in the history of the space program,
Oh, yeah.
the Great Rock and Roll Debate.
The proposed inclusion of Chuck Berry's Johnny B. Goode.
The committee wanted to put rock and roll on the record, but the archives show severe pushback from within the academic community.
Very severe.
One notable objection argued that rock music was adolescent and lacked the profound cultural weight necessary to represent the pinnacle of human achievement to the cosmos.
It is a classic example of cultural gatekeeping intersecting with scientific endeavor.
But Carl Sagan, a man often stereotyped as a deeply serious, detached academic, delivered the ultimate defense. When told that rock music was adolescent, Sagan reportedly replied, "There are a lot of adolescents on the planet."
It is an airtight argument.
It really is.
If the mission of the Golden Record is to provide an honest, comprehensive self-portrait of humanity, you cannot selectively edit out the raw, driving, energetic pulse of youth culture. To censor Johnny B. Goode, because it doesn't sound like Beethoven, is to send a sanitized, fundamentally inaccurate version of who we are.
So Chuck Berry went to the stars. But the global representation extends far beyond American rock and European classical. The sheer breadth of human experience they compressed into those tracks is awe-inspiring.
Absolutely. They included Blind Willie Johnson's Dark Was the Night, Cold Was the Ground, which is a wordless slide guitar blues track that conveys an almost unbearable sense of human sorrow and isolation.
They included a soaring Georgian polyphonic choir, demonstrating the complexity of communal human voices weaving together. They included the mathematical intricacies of an Indian raga.
Yeah.
They found room for the haunting, breathy sound of Solomon Islands panpipes and the deeply spiritual resonance of a Navajo night chant.
The music section is the ultimate proof of human diversity. It demonstrates that while we inhabit wildly different environments and possess wildly different cultural philosophies, music is our universal technology for processing the psychological weight of existence.
So we've sent them our mathematics, we've sent them the blueprints of our biology, we've sent the sounds of our planet, our languages, and our most profound art.
We covered all the bases.
But the most staggering inclusion on the entire Voyager Golden Record wasn't meant to be heard.
No, it was designed to be felt.
I really want to slow the pace down here because this is the strangest, most deeply moving detail in the entire deep dive. Buried within the audio tracks of the record is an hour-long recording of a human brainwave, an electroencephalogram, or EEG, that was compressed down into roughly 1 minute of audio data.
Right, the brainwaves. The brainwaves belong to Ann Druyan, the creative director of the project.
Yes.
And the conceptual justification for including a medical brain scan on a phonograph record was rooted in speculative science fiction.
Right. What was the actual scientific logic the committee used to justify this? Like, how do you read an EEG with a record player?
Well, Druyan hypothesized about the ultimate limits of technological advancement. She reasoned that if a civilization is advanced enough to intercept a probe in the interstellar void, their technology might be millions of years ahead of our own.
Which is a fair guess.
Right. She speculated that such a civilization might possess the neurological decoding algorithms necessary to read the electrical impulses of a human EEG and reconstruct the thoughts of the subject.
So she volunteers to be the test subject. She coordinates with a medical facility in New York, gets hooked up to the EEG sensors, and the plan is for her to meditate on massive objective concepts.
Right, the big stuff.
She's supposed to think about the geological history of the Earth, the evolution of biological life, the complexities of human social structures, and the predicament of civilization.
She was attempting to act as a biological hard drive, mentally transmitting an encyclopedia of human existence into the electrical patterns of her cerebral cortex.
But the reality of what actually happened in that room is a secret love story.
It's incredible.
And this is the deeply emotional detail that makes the entire Voyager mission pivot from a cold science experiment into something entirely different. Days before she was scheduled to record those brainwaves, Ann Druyan and Carl Sagan had a phone call.
Just a few days before.
Over the course of that intense, world-shifting conversation, they realized they were in love with each other. By the end of the call, they had agreed to get married.
It is a remarkable, deeply human convergence of events. The person tasked with recording the objective scientific history of the world is, at that precise moment, experiencing the most profound, subjective, emotional upheaval a human being can undergo.
So she goes into the lab. The sensors are attached to her scalp. She is trying her absolute hardest to focus on the history of civilization, just like the committee planned. But she later admitted that while she was meditating on all that grand, sweeping history, a quote-unquote couple of irrepressible facts slipped in.
Meaning, her mind inevitably wandered to the man she had just fallen in love with.
The electrical neurological activity of a woman newly, intensely in love was captured by the machine, translated into an audio waveform, pressed into gold-plated copper, and bolted to a spaceship.
Wow.
But let's look at this critically. I want to debate the scientific validity of this with you because, well, can you actually do that? If an alien plugs that audio file into a supercomputer, can they decode her love story?
If we evaluate this through the lens of strict neurology and information theory, the answer is definitively no.
Not possible.
Not possible. An EEG is a remarkably crude measurement. It measures gross electrical activity across the surface of the scalp. It can tell a neurologist about your state of arousal, whether you're awake, deep in REM sleep, focused, or relaxed.
Okay, so broad states.
Exactly. It captures alpha waves and beta waves. But it possesses no linguistic structure. You cannot decode a 1977 EEG into specific translatable thoughts, let alone reconstruct the complex, subjective emotional nuance of romantic love. The data required to reconstruct a memory simply isn't present in the voltage fluctuations recorded on her scalp.
So what does this all mean? If the alien supercomputer can't decode the thoughts, then it completely fails as a scientific transmission.
It fails entirely as data.
But the moment you realize it fails as data, you experience this massive paradigm shift regarding the entire object. Because if it isn't a practical message, then what is it? It's a keepsake.
Yeah.
It's a locket. It is a love note, disguised as scientific data and made mathematically permanent.
It ceases to be an attempt to communicate with the future and instantly becomes a monument to a highly specific, intimate moment in the past.
The literal, physical neural pattern of a woman newly in love in the summer of 1977 is currently sailing beyond the boundaries of our solar system. And because of the vacuum of space, it is going to remain perfectly preserved for 1 billion years.
It's beautiful.
It is the most romantic thing I ever heard in my life. But realizing that the EEG is a keepsake, rather than a practical interstellar telegram, forces us to ask a difficult, deeply existential question about the entire Voyager Golden Record.
It forces us to confront the brutal mathematical odds of the mission itself.
Right. Because as much as we, as a culture, love the cinematic idea of an alien picking this up and tapping their foot to Chainberry, the physical reality of the cosmos is a lot colder.
A lot colder.
These probes are not aimed at any star. They are just drifting blindly into the void. The mission data points out that Voyager 1 won't even pass near another star system, specifically a red dwarf called Gliese 445, for roughly 40,000 years.
And even then, near is a relative term.
Very relative.
It will pass by at a distance of about 1.6 light years. That is trillions of miles away. It's not going to crash land on an alien beach.
The sheer vastness of interstellar space makes the likelihood of interception almost a statistical impossibility.
Carl Sagan himself provided a very clear-eyed, honest framing for this reality in the mission debriefs. He noted that the record will only be played if there are advanced spacefaring civilizations in interstellar space.
And that's a big if.
And even as the galaxy is teeming with such civilizations, finding a silent, dead probe measuring 12 feet across in the unimaginable dark is an act of pure astronomical chance.
He explicitly viewed launching this object as throwing a bottle into the cosmic ocean. He said that the act of launching it says something very hopeful about life on this planet, but he wasn't placing a bet that it would actually be found.
No, the scientific community was fully aware that they were whispering into a hurricane.
So here is my ultimate pushback on the whole endeavor. Here's the question that has been bothering me since we opened the archival records.
Lay it on me.
If the odds round down to 0, if it is almost mathematically guaranteed that aliens will never, ever find this golden record, who was it really for?
Right.
Why did humanity spend 6 frantic weeks, marshal the greatest scientific minds of a generation, navigate intense cultural controversies, and expend all this intellectual energy building a message no one will read?
This raises an important question, perhaps the foundational question of this entire deep dive.
Okay.
If the intended external audience is a statistical impossibility, then the true audience must be internal.
Oh.
The record was for us.
It was for us.
The message was received the exact moment it was pressed into vinyl in 1977.
Wow.
It was received by the committee members who sat in a recording studio weeping as they listened to a whale song fade into a baby's cry.
Yeah.
It was received by the aerospace engineers who carefully bolted the aluminum jacket to the spacecraft chassis. And it is received by every single person, including you, the listener, tuning into this deep dive today, who learns about its existence, considers the vastness of the dark, and feels a sudden profound tightening in their throat. The act of curation was the point.
It's not a message to the aliens. It's a mirror held up to humanity. And when you look at it that way, it connects to the oldest, deepest human impulses we have.
How so?
Think about grave goods. Think about ancient pharaohs burying gold and intricate artifacts in tombs that were engineered to be sealed forever, never to be seen by living eyes.
Right.
Think about children burying a time capsule in the schoolyard. It is this fundamental, aching human need to leave a durable, idealized trace of ourselves behind, to prove that we were here and that we mattered.
We just happened to use NASA's cutting-edge aerospace engineering to aim our time capsule at eternity.
And that brings us all the way back to the deep time vertigo we discussed at the very beginning of this deep dive. We have to look at the timeline of what this physical object actually represents.
Yeah, the timescale is hard to grasp.
The Golden Record and its aluminum housing are engineered to last on the order of 1 billion years.
1 billion years.
Yeah.
It's a number so large it loses all meaning.
Let's ground it in perspective. The record will outlast the Voyager spacecraft's ability to transmit data back to Earth, which is already failing as the power supplies dwindle.
It will outlast the nation that funded and built it.
Right.
It will easily outlast the pyramids of Giza and every structure currently standing. It may very well outlast the human species entirely, and depending on the life cycle of our sun, it will likely outlast the Earth itself.
It is the ultimate conclusion to everything we've explored today. As a species, we are obsessed with looking backward. We dig in the dirt for lost cities. We spend decades trying to translate dead languages from clay tablets.
Always looking back.
We are constantly searching for the echoes of the past to understand who we are. But what the Voyager Golden Record does is invert that entire dynamic.
It forces us to realize that, on a cosmic timescale, we are the past now.
Yes, we are the ancient, lost civilization. The echo of our existence is already loose in the dark. It is out there, right now, sailing silently through the interstellar medium toward a finder who may never, ever come.
It is a profound reframing of our place in the universe. We are no longer just the temporary observers of history. We have successfully authored an ancient artifact that will outlive our star.
And I want to leave you, the listener, with one final lingering thought to mull over today. Something that builds on the science we've explored, but takes it one step further.
Let's hear.
Consider the absolute silence that is eventually, inevitably going to overtake the Voyager probes. Sometime very soon, their radioisotope thermoelectric generators will run out of power entirely.
Yeah, the power is dropping.
The probes will lack the energy to power their heaters, their thrusters will die, their scientific instruments will freeze solid, and they will stop transmitting their faint telemetry data back to the massive satellite dishes here on Earth.
They'll just go dark.
They will become entirely dead, silent chunks of metal drifting through the absolute zero of interstellar space. But bolted to their sides, protected by an aluminum shield and an atomic clock, those golden records will remain completely pristine, untouched by time.
It's a powerful image.
And what that suggests is something incredibly beautiful about the human condition. It suggests that while human action and human industry and human technology are fleeting, they break down, they run out of power, they eventually fail. Human art, human love, and the simple, vulnerable desire to say hello to the universe. Those are the only things we have ever made that are truly built to survive eternity.
Truly built to last.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into humanity's ultimate echo. And as you go about the rest of your day, just remember, tonight, billions of miles out in the dark, a woman's love is still spinning in silent grooves, saying hello on our behalf.